Hi, fellow tea lovers. Settle in, because we've got a story. I'm Nell.
And I'm Rose, and today we're bringing you the tea.
Across era. Guess what?
What?
It's snowing.
I know! We got a late Christmas present. Fluffy flakes too. Actual picturesqueness is happening.
I know, it's weird. I don't like it.
I like it because I didn't have to go anywhere. I can understand not sharing that opinion if you had to drive.
I did, and so it was at 4 a.m. I
am so proud, and 4 a.m. is a different world, okay? It's a different landscape.
Yeah, so my brother convinced me to join his gym. It is, it's not the type of gym I would have ever joined. I was talked into it because it's not that much money, and they have a cardio side now. So they have like a whole 2 treadmills, 2 stationary bikes.
Seems like a man's gym. Not pejoratively, just
yeah,
that's a man's gym.
It is. At 4 a.m. the music's on and it's like scream metal. It was my first day there. I'm not exactly a weightlifter. 2 seconds in, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to buy gloves.
Mm-hmm.
I apparently impressed my brother when we were doing our stretches with my ability to bend at the waist and have my nose touch my knees and my palms on the floor.
No, that's super impressive, actually. Flexibility is one of the first things we lose, and we don't notice.
I stretch every single night, and that move pops my back for me. Yeah. But yeah, so my whole goal in life is to look like Alana Mayer. I think that's how I say her last name. She was the Olympic rugby player, the really fun one. She ended up on Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. Girl, you're my inspiration. Mm-hmm. Also, my brother is single. I keep throwing this out into the Instagramiverse, but yeah, I went home and went back to sleep until work time. It feels like a whole lifetime ago.
Oh, that was at least 6 days ago.
Definitely. And I don't feel sore yet, but I do feel like some strange feelings, like in some places that I don't work out, like my biceps.
Tomorrow will be the sore day. But...
Right, I know. So, it's snowing. Our little story today doesn't have anything to do with snow.
It's just awesome.
It is. So, right now, a friend of mine, she used to live in New Orleans, but she moved like back east a few years ago. She's visiting in New Orleans for a week or 2. And she's sending these Snapchats. They're so funny. So she's like buying, eating, and telling us about king cakes. New Orleans is spectacular. If you've been there or not, I feel like you've probably heard about New Orleans. You've heard about their food and their Mardi Gras and all that. But yeah, the food is really great. Anyways, these Snapchat videos had me laughing. But then I was also like, oh, I don't have any king cake this year. And so I'm like, what if I talk about king cake?
I was going to ask you to define king cake because I have a vague idea.
Okay.
But all of my attempts have always been just disaster.
So there are several types of king cakes. The one I'm going to talk about today is the New Orleans Mardi Gras kind. So most of them are going to be shaped like a wreath. Mm-hmm. The breading is it's like a bread texture. So there's 2 main types of French king cake. One of them is a flaky puff pastry style. It's usually filled with, something, fruit, chocolate, cream, whatever. There's the puff pastry kind and then like a brioche bread style kind. The king cakes that I have eaten, and I am not an expert on it, I would say they're probably like more the bread kind. Usually have like cinnamon sugar throughout it.
Feels breakfast bready.
It is, but you drown it in a whopping ton of frosting, and then I like mine to have the sections of colored sprinkles, purple, gold, and green. So, like a 2 or 3 inch section of each color going around the cake.
Now that I didn't know about until I had seen a New Orleans style one. Is that particular to New Orleans?
Yes, the colors, they are more specific to the New Orleans Mardi Gras. And that's because way back in 1892, one of the parades by the crew, the Rex crew, which we'll talk about shortly, they had their parade theme as symbolism and colors, and it was purple for justice, green for faith, gold for power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So currently I'm making myself a wreath for my front door out of Christmas ornament balls that are those colors. The cake is wreath-shaped or circular, and that's supposed to represent the route that the maybe 3 or maybe more or maybe less wise women and men, or maybe just men, or maybe just women took. There's no proof it was the 3 wise men, and I will hang. This is one of my hills I'll die on.
I had a Fisher guy bro there. No, I see.
She did. I'm like, there was just 3 gifts. Doesn't mean there's 3 people. So, with the Mardi Gras king cake, there's also something in it. So, after the king cake has cooked and cooled, you put this little, like, plastic tiny baby doll thing inside it. And the person who gets it, that doesn't mean they're going to have a baby that year. It's just like fortune, and they bring the next king cake to the gathering.
Oh, I didn't know you had to bring the cake next year.
Yeah.
That's nice. I believe that it originated with a bean, right?
It did. It's so funny. It did originate with a bean, which I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder how many people used rocks instead.
Right. Who's wasting the beans?
Well, yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, because then I went down this little trip. So, king cake, historically, is not just for Mardi Gras. It's associated with Epiphany, aka Theophany, which is the celebration of the day the unknown number of wise people visited young Jesus and gave the family gifts.
Oh, I've always heard the term epiphany, and I've never really understood its religious context. That makes sense.
I thought it was like having an epiphany.
Right, epiphany what?
But that makes sense, because these unknown number of wise people apparently also had an epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That makes more sense. Okay.
And the reason I say wise people is, look, guys, women tend to be way better with, like, the baby showering and the gift giving of it all.
Look, in terms of planning a trip, do you really think that they just went by themselves? No, you're not traveling by yourself. You're not planning that trip by yourself? No.
So, Epiphany is a part of a larger, like, historically Christian celebration called Twelfth Night. So, the king cake is also referred to sometimes as the baby cake or the 3 kings cake.
Oh.
The 3 wise men sometimes are called kings. I don't know why. Who knows why anything?
That makes so much sense. I always figured it was just, a royal thing for a royal occasion. I didn't know why it was a king cake.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So when they use the bean, the person who got the bean in their slice of cake was then jokingly called the king for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you put it in the underside of the cake when you're done baking, traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the Middle Ages, the person who was made king by the cake was supposed to buy the next round of drinks.
That's fair. You got to be king.
But to prevent cheating, they eventually replaced the edible bean with a porcelain bean.
Because then you can't bring a bean from home.
Yep.
Yeah, because I've seen those little porcelain babies.
Well, also, you could just eat the bean and be like, I don't owe anybody drinks.
Oh, fair. I just keep assuming that finding the bean is universally good thing. But yeah, no, I don't want to buy the next round of drinks.
Yeah, I mean, now, I want to find it. And that was when I kind of went down I wonder if they use rocks. But in other places, places use like a whole almond, even candy, fava beans, like different things.
Sense.
And then historians argue whether the tradition of the king cake originated in Greek culture or Roman culture. The tradition of ordering a New Orleans king cake, which is not exactly the French king cake, but it's the Creole king cake. That tradition of like going to a shop as part of Mardi Gras and buying a king cake, that originated in the 20th century.
Okay.
And it's still what you do. One of the places my friend at is at it's like a Vietnamese restaurant or a Thai restaurant, and she says they make the most delicious cakes. They don't ship them, I've looked.
That sucks.
So yeah, after doing all this research, I ordered a king cake.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. There's a place that has coffee, and they had like king cake coffee. And so I'm like, that was PJ's coffee. Okay. And then the next thing I knew, I had also ordered a bag of king cake beans. Yay. Hey, king cake beans.
King cake beans. Oh my gosh.
And they're going to arrive at the same time. I guess I could put a king cake coffee bean in my king cake and see who gets it.
It's uncake-like. Why not?
That's fantastic. Wow, it just connected in my head.
Amazing.
Okay, so what is Mardi Gras? The literal translation of Mardi Gras is Fat Tuesday. And I think if you live in a place that doesn't actively celebrate the Mardi Gras season,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what you associate it with.
Mm-hmm.
But Fat Tuesday is actually the end of Mardi Gras season because the next day is Ash Wednesday and it's Lent.
Okay, all right. I was going to ask, but yeah.
Yeah, so this year, Mardi Gras season's already started. It started January 6th, and then it'll go through March 4th. And it's based on Easter. The roots of Mardi Gras trace back to pagan celebrations of the seasons.
Because regardless of who you're worshiping, the merits of having a fun, distracting holiday when everyone is cooped up, less active, and more irritable that just always remains valuable.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
In ancient Rome, they had their festivals like Saturnalia, Lupercalia, and those were like revelry, feasting, no social norms, those kind of things also influenced Mardi Gras. And then Christianity starts spreading throughout Europe, and religious leaders are like, well, we could take this holiday and put it on our Christian calendar, and then like our people will be like, cool, something to do. And those people will be like, oh yeah, that's cool, they like it too.
Name it after a saint, whatever, we're still eating cake today.
Exactly. And Mardi Gras has kind of become like the party before Lent. To get all your excess out so you can fast.
It's the release valve of having a really, really structured time period.
Yeah. French explorers brought their own Mardi Gras traditions to the Americas. And the first Mardi Gras celebration in what would become the United States of America was in 1703 in Mobile, Alabama. That's pretty close to New Orleans. But in Mobile, it's still a very big celebration.
That's cool. I wouldn't have expected it outside of New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really big. And even though I lived in Alabama for quite a while, I've never been to their Mardi Gras. It wasn't until I moved out here for college that I went to visit my friend when she lived in New Orleans. We actually never really went out on Fat Tuesday because it was like such a crazy crush of tourists.
Oh yeah, that's a madhouse.
Going downtown to the French Quarter and stuff on actual Mardi Gras is a nightmare.
I'm sure.
I mean, if I was like 20, it would have been... No, it's still a nightmare.
Even then, shoulder to shoulder just isn't really very fun.
Right. And, the tragedy that just happened in New Orleans, a person drove their truck into the crowds. Like, just thinking of how those crowds are, that's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So in New Orleans, Mardi Gras culture kind of spread. They have very big French influence down there. Now people just associate Mardi Gras with New Orleans. So one thing that's really fun about the Mardi Gras season are the parades.
Oh, iconic.
So yeah, they don't happen just on Fat Tuesday. That would be wild. There's a published schedule of parades, and the parade routes are just like a given, like the routes are very established. Some of my favorite parades have been like Endymion, although I don't love them because they're like a men only crew.
Oh
yeah. It's cool. So the Krewes, it's a crew, Krewe. Yeah, and it's a social organization that stages parades and balls for the carnival season.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And joining a crew is a huge deal.
Oh, yeah, it's very public facing. I bet that's really, really hotly contested.
Right. And hard. Like, you think rushing is hard? You guys watch Bama Rush Talk at all? That's easy sometimes compared to this.
Wow.
Well, maybe not so much nowadays. I don't know. Anyway, crew in the context of Mardi Gras originated in 1857 with the Mystic Krewe of Comus.
Ooh, that's just a name.
I know. The first organized Mardi Gras parade group was heavily influenced by secret societies and fraternal organizations. The founders also chose the word crew because it's fun, it's archaic, it's mysterious, and they wanted it to have like a secretive nature.
It's more fun.
Right? So the success of that crew, the Mystic Krewe of Comus, inspired the formation of other crews, obviously, each with their own unique themes, costumes, parade routes, and anything else they did. Crews today, they're the ones that put on the parades. So if you're going to Endymion or you're going to Muses, you're going to see that parade.
Oh, so they do the whole organization, or do they do just organization of pieces of it?
Nope.
That is so
It's
cool.
their parade.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. Crew members pay fees to be in the parade / ball. Some of the really big ones, like getting an invite to their Mardi Gras ball, is like a huge deal. If you've watched Princess and the Frog Disney version, have you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Whew. Like how Charlotte's dad is like, I'm the king of the Mardi Gras. Like, it's a big deal in some circles to go to some of these balls. And this sounds fun.
Yeah.
Like I've ever been. And some of them aren't as exclusive. You can like maybe buy tickets to the ball. The fees to be in these crews can range from like $20 a year to thousands of dollars per year per person. The most elaborate parades are the most expensive.
Yeah.
And criteria for crew membership also varies quite a bit. Some are very exclusive, and basically if you're not related to someone who is or was in the crew, give it up.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
What are the qualifications, though?
It just depends. So here, let's like read what it takes to join my favorite crew. They are what's now known as a super crew. They've got over 1,000 members. They're not accepting applications anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you basically just have to wait.
Somebody needs to quit, move, or die.
Yep. So I just pulled up the crew of Mid-City. Mid-City is just like a section in New Orleans. They hold their own parade the Sunday before Mardi Gras every year. And they limit their crew to only 300 participants annually. And they've got a button here. It just says purchase online. So I'm looking to purchase. If I want to buy a deluxe membership from them, it is $1,768.
Oh, wow. But you can just purchase.
For this one, yeah.
All right. So it varies a lot.
Yeah. And so, like, the cheapest one is $676. It includes your ride on the parade, your costume, and admission to the pre-parade breakfast and mass.
Admission to mass?
Right. This is small, not a ton of people, only 300.
It's interesting. It ranges from invite only to audition only to got a credit card.
So in Endymion, well, they put on a huge parade every year. They're a really big crew. They actually have over 3,000 members. They're like a super duper crew. Also, this year, the Super Bowl will be held in New Orleans in the middle of Mardi Gras season. I know. If you have Super Bowl tickets, like, you're so lucky. It's going to be so fun. The parade this year is going to head to the Superdome, where the band Train and apparently Katy Perry will be playing. Some of the crews will use the entire, like, membership fee for the parade floats, the costumes, the throws. Some of them, you're paying for the materials, but you're doing it yourself. But in some of the bigger crews, obviously, they're paying professionals to do all this based on their theme. In most crews, the members are responsible for buying their own throws, which is like throws are going to be like beads, plastic coins.
Oh, okay.
What have I caught before? Cups. I've caught tons of stuff. T-shirts, glow sticks. One rule with Mardi Gras parades is you don't pick it up off the ground.
Really?
There's no need to. You know, I'm sure everybody's heard like, oh, you go to New Orleans and you flash it and you get beads.
I mean, yeah.
You don't. I mean, you can if you want, if you're on Bourbon Street. I've been to one French Quarter parade, and I don't remember that. All the other ones I've been to are considered family friendly, which is a funny, different thing in New Orleans. Like, I don't know, family friendly is different there.
The bar moves.
Yeah, but yeah, the throws. They throw so much stuff that unless it's like the coolest beads on the planet hit the ground, nobody's going to pick them up. At the end of the Mardi Gras season, basically like snowplow looking things come through and take all the trash out starting at midnight on Mardi Gras. Yeah.
So theoretically, if you were to like mudlark along Bourbon Street 1145, you'd probably find some interesting things that need sanitizing.
You don't touch it. And take a picture and move on. I actually, one year, I think it was St. Patrick's that I was in New Orleans. I would go during spring break, but since Mardi Gras is a holiday that moves, sometimes it was Mardi Gras time, sometimes not.
Yeah.
And at one of the St. Patrick's Day parades, I ended up documenting. I had a really nice camera, and I was doing black and white photography at that time, like developing it myself. I documented public bathrooms.
Ooh. I bet that was horrifying but interesting.
So I didn't document anything that was incredibly horrifying.
Mm.
The two absolute worst bathrooms I saw were at the Arby's. That's right on like the edge of the French Quarter. And that was along the parade route. And for $5, you could buy a wristband and have access to the bathroom all night.
Ooh, that's smart.
Yeah, and they had a bathroom attendant. Unfortunately, by like halfway through the night, the floor was at least 3 inches of spilled alcoholic beverage and paper towel / toilet paper sludge. The worst one was at it's on Bourbon Street. It's one of the OG places that sells the drink, the hand grenade. I don't know what it is. It's probably gonna do that to you though.
Sounds impressive.
And I went to go to the bathroom, but somehow I don't even know how it's possible. Like the filth was above the toilet seat.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't document either of those.
Oh.
I had so much fun because they're so different, and a lot of them, being the buildings are old, they're like let's say if you're at a bar and you're like, I need the bathroom, so you go out the back and there's a courtyard shared with a lot of other businesses, and then there's like the one bathroom back there.
Oh, yeah, that's rough. That's a line.
Some of them were interesting though. I really liked them.
I think my least favorite public bathroom ever was in Amsterdam. They had these really picturesque little, almost punched tin looking oval things that did not go all the way to the ground. It looked almost like if you had stretched out a kind of old fashioned looking trash can sideways and up. And they were urinals. I did not realize that you were just supposed to know to not walk exactly next to those things because, I mean, it was sat next to like a bus stop or in the middle of the sidewalk, and you would basically go around this little S curve as a guy and just pee out in the open. You just had visual privacy, but then it would just run out onto the sidewalk. And that was new. They also did a lot of power washing in that city, so I can understand why that was a good symbiosis solution for them. But man, I was not prepared.
I think the absolute worst bathroom of my life, and I'm sorry to this country, I love the people there, I love visiting, I will be back, but daggum, in your domestic side of the airport in China, I was catching a plane from Beijing to Shanghai, and we didn't go to a lot of like privately Chinese places to use the bathroom. Like if we were going in a place that was more like residential, our tour guide would take us to the restroom before we got there. So yeah, there are holes in the floor. I didn't mind. I'm fine with that. But in the airport, I didn't even round the corner. I was far away in line when the smell hit me. And one of the other people on the tour, like, just starts backing out of there. And she was like, don't go there.
Just not doing it. Just not worth it.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to talk about bathrooms.
That was a weird non-sequitur. Whatever.
But anywho, some of the crews are female only. Some are men only. The Krewe of Muses, which I was talking about earlier, they're a really fun one. Women only, founded in 2000 by a lady named Stacy Rosenberg. And they had their first Mardi Gras parade in 2001. The Krewe has their parade the Thursday night before Mardi Gras, and they have 25 floats. And the theme is different every year, and it's usually for them like something tongue-in-cheek.
The most fun kind.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Like, I've seen some hilarious stuff and some amazing stuff. The first float is called the Goddessy, and that always carries the crew captain and the officers. The Goddessy and all of their floats actually are built by the same studio, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Niche job adventure in New Orleans. The Goddessy, whatever the theme is, it always has their Greek mythological winged stallion Pegasus, the symbol for the 9 muses in Greek mythology, and then a tree of knowledge with at least 100 peach-colored lanterns.
I think one of my favorite lines that Margaret Miller has written was Mnemosyne and her 9 light-footed daughters.
Ooh.
She's the mother of memory and thus the mother of the muses.
Okay.
That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? I mean, oh, she's so talented.
It doesn't roll off my tongue, but I like hearing it. And then on that parade, they also have the high-heeled shoe float.
Oh, fun.
I know. Which carries the honorary muse of the parade. And just for a fun fact, Jennifer Coolidge was 2020's muse.
Rock the hell out. That is fantastic.
The final float in their parade is called the Sirens. One of the reasons the Krewe of Muses is so cool, they are famous for throwing shoes. Not just any shoes, usually heels. And they special bedazzle them. And like a lot of times they'll be thrown in like a bag.
I was going to say, that seems dicey.
Yeah, and it's just one shoe. You don't get both. And if you catch a shoe, it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
One of my friend who used to live there, her best friend, who's like now one of my mutual friends, she caught a shoe once. I remember that was a huge deal.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like.
I know. And then they also throw like the usual beads and whatnot. And then throwing the shoes, it's like their female playfulness, like turning the typically masculine Mardi Gras on its head kind of thing.
No, I love that.
Yeah. And their shoes, like I said, highly coveted. Highly coveted. And so, like, on the parade routes, so you can either be sidewalk side or neutral ground side. Because in New Orleans, they call, like, the middle strip what I would call the median.
Mm-hmm.
That's the neutral ground.
Oh, okay.
And it's always kind of like a joke. I don't know. I don't know how true this is. It's often, like, jokingly, it's like, oh, in the 19th century, like, on the middle strip of Canal Street, which divided like the French Creole people and the Americans, that was the neutral ground.
Oh, interesting.
So in like a lot of traditional like pictures, if you've seen pictures of trolleys, well, streetcars, my bad, and they're called streetcars in New Orleans. If you've seen pictures of streetcars, sometimes they run in like the middle of a street with like one way on either side of it. That's the neutral ground.
That makes sense.
So by default, I've always been sidewalk side just because my friend is sidewalk side.
You should have opinions about this, like a football team. Are you a sidewalk side or
it is? It is like one of my favorite websites, Flirty Girl. It's a company in New Orleans, and they sell T-shirts that say like neutral ground side or sidewalk side. And then so because the parade routes are the same, people camp out for spots. Like it's a big deal. Let's say you need like you need a room for 12 people, right? So you take your tarp out, you lay your tarp out, you put your tent up on it, you put your chairs out, and you take turns. People take turns staying and kind of like saving it the whole time. Also really cool if you rent your own porta potty. Love people who do that.
Can you actually do that?
Yeah. You rent your own private porta potty, and people who've saved the same spot for years, your neighbors on either side of you. So the three of you go in on it.
Oh, wow.
And then you have a couple of keys, and then everyone in your group gets to use the porta potty, which is amazing.
That's a great idea.
Another thing you're going to put out to save your spot is your ladder. Yeah. So the ladders are where the kids sit.
Oh.
You've got like a ladder. Hopefully it's painted fun colors. And you build almost like a box on top. It's a seat. So it's got like a bottom, a back, two small sides, and usually like a wooden dowel bar type of thing in front of you to keep your kid from falling out. Yeah. And then you sit your kids in there and they're up high. And so they get the opportunity to catch things.
That is fantastic.
It is, unless you're behind them. I really hate it when they put them like at the front of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Another fun thing in the parades, you're going to see a lot of high school bands. And like I asked you the other day, why do drum majors take those weird steps? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know it had a reason.
It does. I'm sure there are actually several, but the one that I've encountered the most is you can't always see their hands. They're supposed to be directing. You're supposed to be keeping the beat. The way that the sound moves when you're moving with it is so different than when it's static that you can't always necessarily even rely on the drum line. I mean, that is your heartbeat, but if wind is shifting or you can't see the drum major or you can't hear the drum line in an effective way, you can look down and see feet. Because you look down, you look for the specific feet.
That's so cool. I mean, obviously it makes sense. I just never thought to ask. So another thing that I have bought from Flirty Girl, if you shop there, it's flirty like fleur-de-lis. They're the best. Yeah. So I have a sticker from them and it has like some marching band people and it says, step to the side, like move out of the way. So the bands, when they're marching down the parade routes, they're usually like full across. They got to make sure that you're not getting whacked with a trombone or something the whole time.
Oh, yeah. I remember being really weirded out when they told us that we were allowed to mow people down if they walked into the parade.
Yeah.
That was wild.
a lot of these, the parents and, parents, teachers, whoever, will walk on the sides and are like, step back, step back, step back. And it is just so much fun. Like, I love Mardi Gras season, but it's not about my love of Mardi Gras, is it now? Historians believe that, like, the tossing of throws, like the beads and whatnots, dates back to England Renaissance era. However, in New Orleans, it's supposedly introduced when a carnival king was, like, throwing fake gems and jewelry to his loyal subjects. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that are thrown out. Like, I've seen like candies listed here. And apparently it used to be popular for troublemakers to throw dirt in effort to cause a commotion. But it made it sound like they were, like, intentional troublemakers. One of the really huge, well-known parades in Krewes is Rex. The Rex crew, the crew of Rex. They have, like, the king of Mardi Gras. Like, when Charlotte's dad refers to that in The Princess and the Frog, he's probably the king of Rex.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have seen a few kings, and but the only two that I remember, I saw, his name is, like, Ian Summersmolder, but everyone calls him Ian Smolderhotter. What's his name? It was in the Vampire Diaries.
Oh, I
Smolderhotter.
should know that.
Yeah, sounds good. That's not his name. That's just what we call him.
It is now.
And Norman Reedus, and I love him. He's from The Walking Dead and 80 million other things. Another part of Mardi Gras parades, and I know we don't really use this term a lot, but this is, like, what they call themselves, the Mardi Gras Indians. That's traditionally going to be, like, African American people in New Orleans who participate they have usually, like, these very elaborate hand-sewn costumes that are inspired both by Native American and African aesthetics. So you've got, like, beads, feathers, all kinds of stuff. And the Mardi Gras Indian tradition, it's got pretty deep roots in African American history in New Orleans in the South. They also have this tradition of, like, spying and chasing, where it's, like, playfully spying on each other to, like, discover their costumes. Yeah. Also, beads in the trees. There's, honestly, in my opinion, nothing more beautiful than a gigantic tree with not only some Spanish moss, but 80 million Mardi Gras beads. And I did that to my mom's front yard tree one year.
I bet she was very amused.
Yeah, I went to the post office and got, like, the large standard size shipping box and filled it with all the beads I could and mailed it back to myself. There's the parking. I would just like to tell you guys, don't. Inevitably, you're going to decide you can park in front of someone's driveway or somewhere, and it's not going to go down well. No. You should just park far away and walk.
Just as a person who has lived in a tourist area for quite a while, that crap bugs.
It does. I mean, I've only been there with locals. One year we went to visit her friend and her husband when they were, like, newly dating, and they weren't living together yet. And him and his roommates lived on Charleston Street on one of the routes. So we went over there. One year we went with another friend of hers, and her family had, like, saved a section for weeks. And I remember, you see this, like, I've got a bunch of spots on my hand, but the faint one right there in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay. That one is actually a tiny scar. We were eating fried chicken, and I was chatting up a horse that a cop was riding. And I said, can I pet the horse? And he was like, yeah. And I did. And the horse must have smelled the fried chicken.
Oh, dear.
Took a little nibble. Another thing that people would do, if there's, like, on one weekend, if there's going to be, like, a morning parade and an evening parade on the same route, we went home and napped in the middle of it all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, in closing, one of my favorite things that has kind of come out of the whole New Orleans Mardi Gras culture is a second line. Here's a definition of a second line. It's cute.
Oh, I thought it was a second line, like you were going to give me a quote just now. I'm so sorry.
No.
So what's a second line?
A second line, so here's a cute definition. A spontaneous and joyful parade that follows a brass band through the streets.
Oh, you just got so excited and happy you couldn't help yourself and went on the street too. I love that.
Yeah, so it says, like, origins, deep roots in African American culture in New Orleans. They evolved out of funeral processions, which is when the brass band led the procession from church to cemetery. So now, let's say a brass band starts playing in your neighborhood spontaneously. People hear this. They go outside. They're joining the procession, dancing and celebrating. And you get to carry like umbrellas or handkerchiefs or like something fun to put up in the air and dance with. And now they're done a lot. Like our mutual friend, she doesn't live in New Orleans anymore, but she had her wedding there, and they had a second line wedding.
That's so cool.
So one thing that's kind of special to like New Orleans and the Mardi Gras is they have this dance troupe of men. The 6'10" stompers, they typically wear like light blue shorts, kind of like very 1980s, like light blue to teal. And then they have like a red and white baseball type cap. They also wear crew socks, gold shoes, and they dance.
Ooh, that's a look.
And they're amazing, and they're so funny. They usually do like raise money for good causes. Their logo is ordinary men, extraordinary moves.
Love it.
So flambeaus. Flambeaus are an interesting part of New Orleans Mardi Gras culture. Flambeau, spelled Flambaux. It comes from the ancient French word describing a torch or a flame used in a procession. So the flambeaus, they used to have, the carnival crews would have them carry the lights.
Yeah, you have to have a lantern lighter.
Yeah.
Or a lantern escort.
Yeah. Originally, there was a lot of slaves. Yeah. So now, the flambeaus, they carry these elaborate flames. A lot of times, I've seen them in like crazy elaborate costumes. I can't believe that they don't catch on fire. And they like kind of dance around and send sparks everywhere. New Orleans is not as flammable as other places of the world right now. They're more on the wet side. But
so they're the fire dancers.
Yeah, and you throw your spare change at them. I have seen them get rather aggressive over the change, which is kind of wild, but they're a fun part of it. Overall, I think that experiencing Mardi Gras off Bourbon Street is so much fun. Find a local and do it.
Like a plan and a half.
And order some king cake from Gambino's. I'm not getting any money off of this. I'm just telling you it's delicious.
Merely enjoy them.
Yes. All right, guys.
I hope you enjoyed the episode.
I do hope so. Also, shout out to the person in, was it Singapore?
I think so. Someone we think went through and listened to everything. And just bless your heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we hope you stick with us.
On the 6th, right?
5th or 6th.
Yeah, thank you. That's so fun. We love that. All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.